So where do you put the sidewalk? And there's two ways that sidewalks are put in here. There's put in here as parkway strip, where they're usually the sidewalks put within 6 inches of your property line, and whatever space there is between the sidewalk and the curb, that's the parkway strip. Then they did starting in the early 60s, made a monolithic. Monolithic means they still let most of the space from the face of the curb to your property line is about 11 feet for most of the residential areas in Sunnyvale built after 1960. Older neighborhoods, the streets are narrower, and those right-of-ways are less. But that space between the face of the curb and your property line is 11 feet. If you make a monolithic sidewalk, you just put a 5-foot sidewalk attached to the curb. It's one piece, the curb, the monolithic, one piece, the curb and the sidewalk. But the rest of the space, that's to put it in the parkway strip, is just between the back of the sidewalk and your property line. Most people that have a property that has monolithic, they think their property goes down to the sidewalk. Well, technically it goes to the center line of the street, but the public right-of-way goes back 11 feet. So in those places, I can have a tree that has much more space to grow in somebody's front yard, so cap the properties that way. So the dilemma I have with planting trees with the public right-of-way is how much space do I have to put that tree in? You get to the older parts of Sunnyvale, and in the Heritage District that's around here, those parkway strips are like 30 inches. And in the older neighborhoods, the utilities are put in the front yard, in the front right-of-way. You'll see power poles going down the streets. So you go from Snail neighborhood, you go into this, you'll see power lines down the front of the street. John knows that he lives there. So I got to contend with power lines. I can't put big trees underneath the each power lines. Also, I have a little 30-inch strip. Putting in genetically large trees, I end up starting to break up the concrete and a 30-inch strip. Even the little teeny tree when I plant it, it's still going to be 15 inches from the concrete either side. So that's a problem. I get in other communities, and that strip gets bigger. You go into the neighborhoods built in the 50s and the 60s that have these parkway strips that are 5.5 feet wide. You've made it from the back of the curb to the edge of the sidewalk. You got 5.5 feet. Now, when I put something in the middle there, I'm still like 2 feet. 2.5, 2 3/4 feet from, even I get to dead center in the parkway strip, I'm close to concrete. So I got an issue of, what tree species to select. Now, I didn't select all the trees. I came in here in '89, and there were a lot of them here. So liquid ambers and magnolias, people love those trees. They have massive root systems, and so people will chew up concrete. So that's an issue. That's why I was brought here. So how do you do that? So I learned here. So good. You have a question? Wait. Later, right ahead.
Right over here.
So I just wondered how feasible it is to, or is it feasible to put in evergreen trees and have less leaf output, or is that not feasible?
Have you ever lived under a pine tree? There's no such thing as a tree that doesn't lose leaves. It just is when they lose them. Usually evergreen trees. People hate, if you've lived in a place with a southern magnolia on it, southern magnolia doesn't lose their leaves in October, November, December, January. They're brilliant green, full foliage. Maybe even got flowers on them. They start dropping leaves in April, May, June, July, August, and they use a little bit every month until August. 6-month leaf drop. And if you have lawn, well, maybe not once a week you mow the lawn, all the leaves get chewed up. You have ground cover, whatever, it's just laying all of these big hard leaves. So no, evergreen trees. There's nothing out there. Even if you put silk, find the sun will deteriorate the silk. There's nothing out there that's going to last that has no leaves or has no issue with litter. No, don't have this. Mountain degree litter. I like the citrus. Those leaves drop. Usually a month or two. There, you've taken care of them, and all from the spring all the way through the next fall, they're on the tree, and they're not all over the place on the ground. So it's a species selection.
Okay, I really want to compliment your department. We've lived in our home since '76. We lost a beautiful camphor tree in the drought of the 80s. The city came and asked permission to drill holes in our yard, to irrigate it, try to save it. Over 5 years, they were not successful. Then we asked, could they replace it? They suggested a flowering plum or something, which is what they wanted to plant on our street. And I said, but that's the south side of our house. We need a big shade tree. And they sent a list of trees. They told us where to see the trees in the city. We drove all around. We picked a tree, they planted it, and within 5 years it died, even though we followed the watering instructions. So we maybe have a root fungus or some weird thing. And then they replanted the tree 2 more times. I want you to know the last tree, we've had 10 years, it's still growing strong.
Oh, great.
But we have found, you're sorry
we're learning too, because one thing I've got to do now is I've got to change tree species out. We've got so many magnolias and we've got so many liquid ambers, the most numerous tree species of the street tree species that were planted out here. People back in the 70s and 80s loved magnolia, loved liquid amber, and they planted them all over the place. There's probably over 7,000 of those trees. But those are not sustainable over the long term. We get into really water restrictions when we say, hey, what are you going to do with your water? I don't want to see what's going to happen unless we pass a bond measure to start capturing water and trying to hold on to it. But I don't know, you may get to a point in time where we're actually controlling how much water you're allowed for landscape. And if you do that, then what do you do about what you pick? Street trees for me, I say, hey, I'm not trying to pick trees that would grow here anyway. So I'm trying to pick species that what I call are Mediterranean climate adapted. So we here in California are Mediterranean climate. Of course, Mediterranean is the biggest zone that has that. And the southern hemisphere has Mediterranean climates too. The southern hemisphere is such a large zone of ocean that the land masses that have Mediterranean climates on them are small. So there's a little piece of Australia that has, long dry summers, mild wet winters, Chile, and also the tip of South Africa. The rest of it's Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, so you don't have. But in the northern hemisphere, it's California, and it's the Mediterranean. Other parts of the world that have trees that have long dry periods, they have a monsoon season and a rainy, and then a dry season, or even desert places that have it. Kind of bizarre. You go to Arizona, you can find trees that are native to Arizona. So we're trying to pick species that'll fit here on a long-term basis with the water I believe is going to happen.
She asked me what kind of tree it was. It's some kind of oak that was recommended, and we had somebody come out and look at it last year because it was growing these extensions all over the place, and the tree across the street, which is identical, was a little wall. And the guy that came out said, well, that's because you're irrigating your tree and they're not. Do you know what that would be? Because she asked me.
Well, no, I haven't memorized all 38,000 by location. but if you have an address, give it to me and I'll try to look it up. Because we have a database.
Well, what are you planting now? What are you planting now for street trees?
We still have a selection. I'm trying to put in a lot more oaks. California native oaks and oaks from other parts of the world that have Mediterranean climates. The one that we do that's an eastern oak that we plant a lot. When we had the liquid amber removal program that was approved by council in 2005, the requirement is to plant trees that mimic the liquid amber as far as its stature. They just have to mimic it in shape. And we found the Shamarty oak. It's an eastern U.S. oak, but it's fairly drought tolerant, grows well in our soils, and it probably outgrows. There's a street called Bidwell. I planted it probably 15 years ago, replacing a bunch of liquid ambers. I got Lois has got a lot of Shamarty oaks that had liquid ambers. They're replacing those liquid ambers. And where liquid ambers took 30, 35 years to get big, these oaks took 15. So you go to Bidwell right now, it's a completely canopied street. It's beautiful. You go down Lois now, you're almost completely canopied over it. It's a real pleasant drive to go down the street when they're canopied.
Okay, I think we'll take a break right there. It's 3:50, and we have literature on the tables in the back if you want to look at that about trees. Some of the candidates have put their literature back there also. And if you'd like, you could sign up for our mailing list at SUFA, and then you'll be getting our e-newsletter and other information about tree walks and such. So we'll be back in 4.
Seattle Records baseball club. Just something I grew up. You're in that. I just got here.
All plugged in. The other one. I gotta extend the other one.
Very educational. I gotta think better Frank a little more.
They're similar anyway. Yeah.
Thursday,
Where are you going?
We're gonna go to Safari. Trees are good for parking. Oh, I'm with you. You always try to find a tree to park under. A tree in my front yard gives a lot of critical shade to half of the house in the summertime. You know,
I have a very
how many?
some other picture.
Yeah. Well, 40 years ago, on vacation, whatever. Yeah, that's very happy, obviously.
Yeah, planted because
I think it's planned actually. I think it's Somebody's gonna do that again. Yeah. I'm just glad so many people recognize that. Okay.
I donate some time, nice to meet you. Yeah, that's fine. You can come.
We do. These guys. She's doing exactly what you just did. Urban forest. So she's doing a great job. Oh, you're not going to stick around for the city council candidates to debate and spar a little bit?
Well, I may not have any control over that.
Awesome. Did you just say you're 75? Where did you grow up? What city? Palmdale. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's mighty cold.
Okay, that's right. Well, I would agree, you know, it's not unusual for city work. I guess there you go. That's my that was normally
Horses Radio Network.
500 miles of Fairbanks. When you get there, it's going to be 2008 station. You still have to get to
When I was in station for a while at Naval Station Adak, Alaska. Do you know that one? I don't think it's there anymore, but it's like the second to last station. Out of McDonald's and everything, but aside from that, you're right, same sort of thing. You only get there on an aircraft. Were you in the Navy or the Air Force?
I was in the Marine.
Okay, right on.
If I had to get over my stuff.
Yeah, sure. You have a picture of yourself in the Marines? How long were you enlisted for? 4 years?
12 neighbors this week in town. What you're saying is you kind of stuff when you're out there. Oh, yeah. The other thing I went to, when I took my physical whatever center they called it down there we went to. They said I was blind and green yellow spectrum, so that probably wouldn't be a good idea if I had to. What they call it
where they give you all of your initial medical.
Rules about being fair. Yeah, exactly.
So, you know,
There's so much information coming
get ready for the next
Every kid that has was doing experience. One guy won the That's right. I'll be there. Probably you don't want to do those two, right? My brother took me fishing off the cabin.
This is sort of little man for this organization.
People busy things. Yeah. By the time my hour, whatever, 4 or 5 hours, please off today, after my orders.
Yeah, it's about, I don't give very much of those. I'm sitting there with my IRS, get something out, what's he gonna do?
I wouldn't trade in my time doing anything I've done for anybody else.
Hello, guys. How are you?
this guy, I don't recognize
Oh, I see what you're saying. I was doing soccer earlier today with my kids.
That's right.
Thank you.
Well, you go online, but also, can it be?
Hey, Russ. Good luck. Thank you. Today for Saturday.
I know,
I'm not a candidate. I see yourself. You can dress down. Lucky you. Yeah, right. There you go. Fantastic. So, good luck with the thing. Thank you. See you Tuesday. How's your weekend been so far?
It's good.
Okay.
So yeah,
Good.
I'm in the middle of precinct walking.
Yeah, so you gotta stop what you're doing.
That's right.
Focus. Exactly.
Were you here for the presentation?
I just wrapped up soccer with my kids, and we made a quick stop at McDonald's to get them some ice cream.
Just wash my hands.
And then we came right here. So, yeah, we got here 10 minutes ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Gustav. What do you do? I'm on city council and I'm running for re-election. So I'm going to be on Get ready for that.
Well, anyway, I hope you guys get it together. Thank you.
That's me.
At one point, how much you guys They have burning and burning.
We're ready for part 2. We have the candidate forum this afternoon at 4 o'clock. And we have 5 candidates here. One will be on video. He recorded something for us. So we have 6 candidates altogether competing for 3 seats on the City Council. Henry Alexander and Gustav Larsson, who is an incumbent, are competing for seat 1. That's Gustav there. We have Josh Grossman, and he's facing off against our mayor, Hendricks, who is here. For seat 2, we have John Cordes and Mason Fong, and they're vying for seat 3. This is the seat that will be vacated by Jim Griffith. The candidates receive 3 questions in advance about the urban forest, which they are to address in the 3-minute introduction.
4 minutes.
Yes, but we have the video, so I had to cut it down. After all candidates have spoken, we will take questions from the audience. And please limit it to 1 question and ask 1 candidate. And then if we get another round, then we can do that. But we'd like as many people as they can to ask questions, be able to ask questions. So we'll start with the mayor as an incumbent. And he can step up here if he'd like. And the questions that he received were, what did you do for the urban forest in the last 4 years? What are your plans to advance the urban forest if re-elected for the next 4 years? And how do you reconcile the rapid development in the city with the need for an urban forest in light of the present day climate change? And what can be done to prevent or to promote the urban forest? Mr. Glenn Hendricks.
Hello, thank you very much. Thank you all for being here and taking time out of your day to come listen to us. My name is Glenn Hendricks. I'm the mayor of the city of Sunnyvale. I've been on the city council for the last 4.5 years, and I've been your mayor for the last 2.5 years. In answer to the questions, what have we specifically done to help the urban forest? One of the number 1 things that we did is we're taking a look at redoing the Civic Center modernization here, is we went ahead and chose an option that maximizes saving the most number of trees right here. It's actually not really the best layout for how we put all the buildings, but we prioritize the trees, and the trees were the priority of how we went ahead and selected the layout. We've also encouraged the city staff to be more proactive when they go out and take a look at development sites, to be there and see what trees can be more saved as opposed to replacing them. Advancing the urban forest, we continue to go ahead and fund all the tree programs. I didn't get to hear everything of his talk, but hopefully he sounded like some great things, and I heard some good comments about the city services that we provide there. We're also in the middle of our 20-year parks renovation program, where we're going to be going out and updating all the parks, and there will be additional trees that will go in there. Reconciling development to the city and what can be done for the urban forest. Redevelopment of properties is probably one of the best things that can be done to go ahead and get additional trees planted at sites. If you go look at some of the sites that are out here, some of our older tilt-up development projects and things like that, the parking lots don't have very many trees, or they've died over time and stuff like that. There are very strict guidelines and definitions that have to happen in terms of new trees being planted and how the percentage of canopies that they have to have over a period of time. So one of the byproducts, I'm not saying we should redevelopment of sites just to go ahead and have a tree planted, but it's one of the things that comes out of redevelopment that happens with the city, that there are very specific guidelines and definitions that developers have to go through. So thank you very much. My name is Glenn Hendricks, and I'm running for re-election to seat number 2. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Next is the incumbent, Gustav Larsson, and at one time you were vice mayor, is that correct?
That's correct.
Now council member.
That's right, back to plain old council member now. Yeah, so my name's Gustav Larsson. I'm running for re-election to Sunnyvale City Council seat number 1. So again, thank you all for taking time out of your busy Saturday afternoon. It's a beautiful day, but it's really important for our city and for our democracy that we actually have citizens who care enough about the city to come out and learn about the candidates and get involved. So thank you for being here. And for the first question, what have I done over the last 4.5 years? As the mayor mentioned on the Civic Center plan, he and I both serve on the council subcommittee that gets a preview of the plans. And as he mentioned, we really prioritized saving the beautiful existing trees here, because that's just a wonderful asset. And we certainly heard a lot of comments from the community as well, especially about the redwood trees. So that's been a real priority to save here. Another thing we've been doing as developers come forward with projects, I've personally, when I get a preview of the project with them, they're kind of saying, well, do you think this might fly or not? Ask them about the trees. Say, hey, it's really important, especially when there are mature, beautiful street trees. And they get it, that it's important for the community. Now, of course, there's also their self-interest. They realize it's better for their project because people like that. But, I think it's better for their project because people like that, because it's good for the community. And when trees do have to be removed, often we have a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 replacement requirement. So even though that temporarily reduces the tree canopy for now, over a longer period of time, we're actually getting more trees in the city, and so as kind of a long-term game plan, that's how we can improve the tree coverage in the city. And then I've also been working on water policy, because I'm the Sunnyvale representative to the Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency, and we are working hard to make sure there's enough water supply to keep watering the trees, keep them alive, even during the drought. If I had more time, I could go into those plans. I'm very interested in those. So I want to continue with that. I want to, looking forward, also consider putting in smaller box-sized trees, because ironically, if you put a smaller tree in initially, it will grow more. A larger box-sized tree that's sometimes asked for is farther along in its life cycle, and it actually won't get as big. And then in terms of reconciling rapid development in the city with sustainability and climate change, I actually don't think it's a matter of reconciling. I think that a lot of the development that we do is actually more energy efficient, it's more water efficient. So it's very important that we do things that are good for climate change, which will in turn help with our water supply, and that in turn is good for the city. And I also support the city requires shading when new projects go in, that there's a shading requirement for parking lots. And so right now you might see just a big asphalt parking lot. The new parking lot that replaces it is actually required to have more trees, so that over a period of 10 to 15 years, there's quite a bit more shade for the folks who are parking in the parking lot. So looks like my time is up, so thank you very much.
I'd like to put in a little plug for SUFA at this time. We did put out a petition to save the redwood grove at the Civic Center, and we may have influenced the council members just a little bit. So now we have the challengers, and first up is John Cordes. They have the first two questions are different, so I'll read those for the challengers. What have been your interests in the past in the urban forest or in the environment? And secondly, if elected, what is your program to advance the urban forest in the next 4 years?
Could you have a look a little bit, because all of that light is.
Thanks. Letting me know. I know many of you here, many of you know me, John Cordes. I've been an environmental advocate in Sunnyvale for decades now. I'm on the Sierra Club Executive Committee. I've been on the Land Use and Transportation Committee, the Sustainable Land Use Committee. I'm a member of Sunnyvale Cool. I'm a member of the Livable Sunnyvale. I've been endorsed by the League of Conservation Voters, the only person in my race to be endorsed by that. I'm also on the Energized Sunnyvale team, which was trying to get the prize award. I'm endorsed by many local environmental leaders up and down the peninsula. I've worked with them for decades, so I have a lot of knowledge about what's going on all around the Bay Area. And I've lived here for 20 years, so I have a lot of local experience. As far as urban plant management, one of the stories I want to tell you is when I moved into my house, there were no trees in the median strip. So I contacted the city right away, had them come out, and they planted 4 trees on my median strip. That wasn't enough, so I went out and planted a couple more myself. When we had the drought, I was an active volunteer in the Snail neighborhood. because the city was willing to put in extra street trees as part of compensation for those large LinkedIn buildings on Matilda Road. So we actually, as the Snail neighborhood, did a special tree drive to put in extra trees around the Snail neighborhood. The city agreed to water them for the first 3 years instead of just relying on the homeowners, and this is during those areas of years. I've also been an advocate for parks in Sunnyvale. I think Sunnyvale's doing a great job of adding to our park system. The Ron Sweegle Park, expanded Orchard Park, Seven Seas Park. And I think it's great that we have a park impact fee that's going to pay for rehabilitating all of our parks for the next 20 years. I'm looking forward to having the new park at 1 A&D Place. Hopefully there'll be a lot of trees in. We'll have to see with the park plan it gets proposed. And the same thing for the new park at the Corn Palace. So, I think Sunnyvale's doing a great job of trying to add parks, and I support that very much. I've reviewed, I should say, the Urban Forest Management Plan. There's a lot of great ideas in there, 7 sets of goals, more than 60 action items. As a council member, I would want to study that in more detail and work with the city staff on how to implement that. The biggest contribution I think we can make is to fund it better so it happens quicker. We want to add 30,000 more trees, and so we're going to have to create more funding to make that happen. So I want to increase the business headcount tax as a way to have more money to implement the urban forest plan quicker. I'm a big advocate against climate change. So I've been working on that since 2005. It's real. We have to deal with it. I'm on the Climate Action Committee for the City of Sunnyvale, working on the Plan 2.0. Hopefully it'll come out this December. Obviously, planting trees is a great way of starting to attack that problem. Trees, for all the reasons mentioned, should be much more common in Sunnyvale. We really have to drive up our canopy cover. There's way too many streets in Sunnyvale you can walk down, particularly since I've walked 7,000 houses already that don't have trees on them. So there's a lot we need to do to promote more trees in Sunnyvale. Thank you.
Josh will have you, and then Mason will be last.
Hi, everybody. My name is Josh Grossman. I'm running for Sunnyvale City Council seat 2. First, I want to thank the mayor for his long years of service. We disagree on almost all of the issues, but I appreciate the service, so thank you. So in terms of the question that I got, I'll start off with kind of what my political activities were. I was part of the public research group in Michigan, so we fought for the renewal of the Clean Water Act, and that really kind of got me activated. I'm a member of the Sierra Club. But the thing that really got me connected with SUFA and with Deborah's work was basically trying to rewrite Measure M. You may be familiar with Measure M. I worked with Councilmember Goldman to come up with a rewrite that would ensure that we weren't going to sell our parks, our civic center, or our golf courses without a vote of the people. And I think that's very important. That's core to my strategy. I don't think that's a decision that the city council should be making. And there were some issues with Measure M, but we fixed it, and they actually did a great job. The only problem is it's still in the hands of the city council, and that's not going to work. In terms of my other connection to kind of trees, I won't get too personal and spiritual on you here, but I've read Ed Abbey and John Muir, so I love trees. I think there's a real critical connection that we have when we're in forest environments, and I have to say, I really, I don't believe that we can build our way to more trees. That just doesn't make sense to me. I don't believe that through increased development, we're going to have more trees in Sunnyvale. It just doesn't compute for me. When I see the projects that we talk about, like the AMD project, that's 1,000 new units of housing on an already very crowded area for a 6-acre park, which is great, but why don't we just create new parks? We had Butcher's Corner. I think that would have been much better as a park. It was annexed by the cities so it could be developed. Why don't we annex it and make a park? So that's kind of where I'm at on that. And then finally, I just think it's important that we realize that we can do this all together. And with your help, we can go out and make a huge difference and make sure that we have a Sunnyvale going forward that's going to have more trees and preserve the character of what we love about our city. Thank you.
Well, good Good evening, everyone. My name is Mason Fong. I'm running for Sunnyvale City Council seat 3. Just a little bit about my background. I've been serving Sunnyvale for a very long time, working for Congressman Mike Honda and Congressman Ro Khanna, where I was the energy staffer for Congressman Ro Khanna. And I currently work for a council member now, where I actually work on Department of Transportation issues, and I deal with the trees every day. In the city of San Jose, people are actually charged with maintaining their own tree versus the city taking care of that. And so I am in charge of contacting the city department, figuring out how financing works, where they can be placed as traffic calming measures and things like that. The first thing I will do once I'm elected to the city council with your help is recognize Leonard. In March, I think I looked on LinkedIn while he was speaking, it'll be 30 years, right?
Next March.
Yes, well, congratulations to you. So the first thing I will do is recognize Leonard for his service. The second thing I will do is I will meet with him and say, what can I push as a council member to make your job easier? Or what can I do on the ordinance side, on the policy side, and on the resource side in terms of the budgeting? Do you have enough city staff? Has your city staff grown in the past decade, since 2008 recession? What are you needing? And that's really what my specialty is knowing where the pressure points are on civic government to make change happen. The second thing I will do is I will meet with Deborah and the STUPA team to say, what study issue can I propose as a council member to help you get to your goal of adding trees? Can I do a study issue purely on adding trees, or can I look at revamping a green business program, or expediting our green business program, or looking at development and pushing our urban villages faster so we can get those benefits from urban villages when we have development on corners like Fremont and Mary, to be able to do more maintenance on the surrounding streets, whether it's traffic signal optimization in coordination with street and tree placement. So I really have a lot of experience with civic government, and I know how to listen. Even in this past hour, I've learned so much. You know, the first thing Leonard did was he said that 18% of our city's population has trees, right? And so that's a number that I resonated really well, and I said, maybe that number is too low. And so how do we get there to increase? And then I asked Deborah, I said, what has SUPA done to try and increase that number? And they told me there was a study issued in 2014. Unfortunately, it wasn't progressing, and it hasn't been touched since. And so then I listened and I said,